Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia in 1929. Growing up in the American South, many people, including King, had to obey the rules and regulations of the Jim Crow laws. These laws were created to legally enforce racial segregation in the southern areas of the United States.
Growing up in the Jim Crow era, practically all aspects of private life and public life were segregated. And that was meant not simply to keep the races apart, but to send signals about which race was the dominant race. And that was, of course, white people.
In 1909, a group of prominent Black and white campaigners created the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, also known as the NAACP. Their goal was to achieve racial equality and challenge issues like the Jim Crow laws.
If you grow up in a segregated town, then you know that in the department store there's a water fountain where white people can drink water, and then there's one marked colored where you're supposed to go and drink water. Now, when you're just a little kid hanging along with your mother, you don't really think that much about it. You just like you're supposed to do what your parents tell you, you go to the colored fountain and drink the water there. So it was the way things were, just like the sun comes up in the morning and goes down in the evening.
Gloria Ray Callmark grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas in the late 40s and 50s.
But then every now and then something would happen, like the man who was found hanging from the street lamp in front of our church. He'd been lynched. And the way my parents explained it to me is they said there are a lot of ignorant people out there, and that's why you have to know what the rules are and to know what to watch out for.
Martin Luther King Jr. grew up in a family with strong connections to the Black church, and he became a member of the Baptist community at an early age.
Dr. Martin Luther King was particularly shaped by the Black church. His grandfather had been a leading Black minister who served a leadership role in institutions like the NAACP. His father followed that same route. He was a prominent Black minister, but also a NAACP leader. He resisted that, as sometimes preachers' kids do. They don't want to follow what their father has done, and he thought of becoming a doctor or a lawyer or something else. But gradually he understood that this is what he was good at. He understood what preaching was about.
The student years were important for the intellectual development of Dr. King. He was introduced to ideas about civil obedience in writings by Henry David Thoreau and Mahatma Gandhi. During his theological studies at Boston University in 1952, Dr. King met Coretta Scott, who later became his wife.
From the beginning of their relationship, you can see that politics and political ideas are the glue that holds them together. So they go through some trials and tribulations during 1952, but ultimately, love wins out.
Shortly after their union, Martin and Coretta moved south to Montgomery, Alabama, where King's involvement towards civil rights would later play a big part in the upcoming events.